Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in today to Inspired Health Television. I'm Dr. Melissa Grohl-Peterson, your host, and if you or someone that you love has been struggling and battling with ADHD, well, today I have the nationally acclaimed expert that's really going to help to give you some tangible insight and information so that by the end of this episode, you can really leave with some ideas of how you can break free from ADHD, reclaim your health and your life. I want to welcome to the show Dr. Steve Rosman. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Well, you know,
it's a pleasure to be with you and all of you.
Thank you. And I sought you out, Dr. Steve, because really your resume precedes you. I mean, for more than 20 years, you've had more than 15,000 successful cases working with different brain-related issues like ADHD, and you've got a large part of your patient population that, if I'm understanding it right when I did my research, making sure I got my facts checked, that people have come to see you from all over that have really been struggling with this condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
And
it's more pervasive than we think.
And that's what I want to talk about today, because I brought you in because you've kind of seen this curve. Now, I remember, when I graduated with my degree, with my doctorate degree 20 years ago, ADHD was only just kind of blossoming. It was just on the rise, and we were just starting to hear the research about children being prescribed Ritalin. And today, the amount, the numbers are staggering. What do you think has really contributed to this? I almost feel like it's kind of this accelerated trajectory from where we were 20 years ago to where we are today. What's happening?
Well, there are a lot of things that are happening here. First of all, it's being more diagnosed than ever was before. More physicians, especially pediatricians, more school psychologists, more parents, based on what they're reading. There's an internet now. So we look on the internet and we see symptoms and we say, oh, this is Johnny or this is Jane, and we jump to the conclusion it must be this, and then we take our child to someone who isn't quite sure, maybe, and then validates that this is what it is. So I think it's being diagnosed more than it ever was, even though there are so many cases of actual ADD, ADHD among children and adults, well into their 40s and 50s, that aren't being documented whatsoever. Second, the invention of frankenfoods. We have, I remember growing up, you had Twinkies, you had hot dogs, and I wouldn't recommend any of that. But now you have so many different foods that are mimicking the flavor of so many different foods, or so many different foods coming out that are enriched foods. What's an enriched food? An enriched food is a food where we took, I'm going to give you $10. I'm now going to take $10 away from you. Don't worry, I'm going to enrich you. I'm going to give you back $5.
Gotcha.
You had $0, now you have $5.
Okay.
You're enriched. Food, we take everything out of food in the processing, so there's nothing there. Then we spray in most cases. Think about spraying food. We spray or add back nutrients, whether or not they're usable by the body, debatable too. We'll get to that in a second. Some of the nutrients that are sprayed aren't even, the body can't even use, but they're sprayed back and they're not what they were, but they're not zero, so we call them enriched.
Well, let me ask you this. So we've got frankenfoods, we've got more diagnosis, we've got the internet, and that brings up a really interesting point, because as a parent with a child, I know the pressures that I think are on all parents today more than ever. So if you start to see your child exhibiting behavior that maybe you're not quite sure, is this normal? Is it not? Does this mean there is a problem? And I think that parents today are so hypersensitive to feeling like we've got to be these helicopter parents. We've got to correct, we've got to course correct, everything's got to be perfect, everything's got to be Pinterest, it's got to be pretty. But that's not really life. So meaning we go searching for a solution. And so we go to the internet and we find this information. We think, oh, that's it. My child has this condition. Let me take him or her in. And I think that there's a little bit, and I'm not faulting, because I understand as a parent there's a lot of pressures that we get placed upon us, and we just want to take care of our kids, more than anything. And so when we see them hurting and struggling, then we feel like, what have I done wrong?
Exactly.
How I'm failing them.
I can't tell you how many cases I've been invited to be part of chat rooms or to be part of dialogues online. And I can't tell you how many cases there are of parents who blame themselves. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I didn't take my son or daughter to enough lessons. I didn't provide enough enrichment. I didn't get to the classroom the first day a problem was reported, whether or not it was due to the child or not. I didn't feed my child this. I didn't do this. I'm the bad parent.
Right. And I know that when that happens...
That's a terrible feeling.
It is, and so I want to release myself of that.
And I want to release everybody else there of that. You're not bad parents.
I know, but you know what we do? We go to the doctor because we think, oh, finally there's an explanation. And the doctor says, yep, it's this label. They give us a med, we give it to our child.
Right.
But then we begin to watch our children further deteriorate from...
Morph into people they're not.
Exactly. So what do we do about this? Because it's not slowing down, it's not going away. Is there a correction beyond medication that can actually bring our children back, it can bring our families back, and most importantly, even for our adults out there that are dealing with this, can give them their sanity back?
Well, first of all, I don't ever want to say that there aren't physicians out there who don't accurately diagnose and don't accurately medicate. So for some children, in some few cases, it's going to be the right way to go. Okay. I also worked as part of a medical facility where I was a director of a department of complementary medicine, worked with 150 other docs in that center. I know how to co-manage. So in some cases, docs trained like me can work if a medication is working without side effects. It's not my preference, and we'll get into that in a second. But I can work with someone else's doctor to lower the medication below the line of side effect, below the line of danger, where that child can still benefit from what the medication might be doing to help, and be enriched and nourished at the same time.
But aren't we over-medicating? So there are cases, I'm hearing you, there are definitely cases.
I just want to make sure that gets out there.
Okay, so absolutely, there are...
We're not all on this side or on this side of the conversation.
It's not black and white, by any means, and I do understand
very complex.
that. It really is complex, and I think that's another reason why I wanted to bring you on the show today, because you take a different approach to this condition that I don't think there are enough practitioners out there like you that are doing this. So for in the cases that maybe we don't need that medication or the amount of medication, what can we as parents, what can we as people dealing with this, what steps can we take, what's available to us to begin to reclaim our health?
Well, first of all, you seek out those who've been trained in functional medicine. Those are people who look below the surface. So a child has certain symptoms, and in most cases is diagnosed by a pediatrician, not a psychiatrist, but a pediatrician, or a child psychologist, a school psychologist, or a parent online. And how is it done? It's done according to a checklist. You have to meet certain number of symptoms, behavioral observable symptoms. They're checked off, checked off, checked off, checked off. But no test gives you a diagnosis. No blood test gives you a diagnosis of ADD, ADHD. So in those cases, you want to say, my child has certain symptoms. What is this? What can I do to help my child achieve, to live, to love, to feel part of an environment at school and not the exclusion, not the one who's set aside, not the one who's bullied or called names? What can I do to give my child as full and optimal a life as possible?
Yes, that's what we want to know.
So what we want to do is get beyond the labels, first of all.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Now, your child may have been given a diagnosis of ADD, ADHD, but as functional med docs, what we do is say, there are a range of observable behaviors or reports from others, and others have then put a label on a child that will stay forever.
That's a huge point, and I don't want to take you out of your flow because this is really great, but yeah, labels can be so debilitating to just the identity of that child. And you know, I have parents that come to me often, and actually I was just speaking with a family last week, and their child has an autoimmune condition. And so they go into problem-solving mode, and they so want to fix it, but they get so hyper-focused on the label. And that child was literally having breakdowns. She was just crying throughout school. She couldn't sleep. And she was journaling, and her mother found her journal. And you know, and part of what was happening is the child was identifying with that label. She was taking it on as that's who she was becoming. And so I think you make a very valid point. First, as parents, we have to be so aware of how we communicate that label to our child and not make them feel that they are that.
Right.
Help them to remember they are
Yes.
so much more than that. Even if it is warranted, they are so much more than a label. So that is huge. And so that's one of the places you really focus on. And then how do you go beneath the surface? You know, are you looking in places that other doctors aren't?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Well,
tell us about that.
first of all, we do just that. We look in places other doctors don't. What we're looking for is, what is it about the body? What is it about the brain that's given rise to these behaviors or these symptoms that others have labeled as ADD or ADHD? And we can do that in a variety of ways. Some of the most simple, if I were to list top 3 or 4, one, we can check for food allergies and sensitivities and tolerances. Foods act in the body like opiates, like chemicals, like morphines. Imagine giving your child an opiate or a morphine-like substance. What's that going to do to the brain? Some foods that certain children don't tolerate, and we've heard of many of them, like milk products or egg products or soy products or wheat products. And not every child has to be sensitive to all these things, or any of them.
So we've got
But it's
food.
worth checking into them.
Yeah.
So food is one. Another one to check into is blood sugar swings.
Okay, super. Well, and that comes back to food, making sure we're getting those right nutrients in.
And getting those right nutrients in. Third is sleep.
Sleep is
Most of the
huge.
children who are diagnosed with these kinds of conditions, and especially those who are put on medications, are put on medications which get them up, and then at night they have trouble falling asleep. Children without sleep, think about yourself, think about any of us who go without sleep. How do we function the next day?
Not well.
How's our impulse control? How is our focus?
Yeah.
How's our concentration? So sleep is a huge issue. If a child is not sleeping well, we can get behind that, we can get underneath that, we can figure out why a child isn't sleeping well.
Well, I want to ask you because we have just a few minutes left with you, and I could speak to you all day. This is absolutely fantastic, and I know our viewers are getting a lot out of this as well. But I want to ask you, so are you just doing a questionnaire? Are you doing, you know, other types of tests? I mean, because if the doctor that diagnosed them is simply doing a little symptom checklist,
Yes.
Are you doing the same thing?
We
Because
do
it sounds
tests,
like you're asking
we do tests
questions.
that other doctors don't do.
So you are doing testing.
We have specialized labs that have very credible tests, and those tests lead us to information about food, about nutrients, about energy-producing centers in the body, especially in the brain, that are or are not working, about chemicals in the brain that transmit information back and forth. Do we have enough? Do we have too little? Because some of these medications are aimed at those chemicals, but they do not create those chemicals.
So they basically are kind of shunting them, turning them on or off, or making more or less, or
Masking the function.
They're masking, but they're not making.
But what if we can find out if the
Yeah.
child actually needs that substance and give the child back food and natural substances that help the body make more of it? Not just mimic it, not just manage it, not just overcome it.
So now let's say that, so somebody comes to you and you're really working with them, you're taking this time, you're looking in places the other doctors haven't, you're doing tests and you're getting some information. But then what happens? Because the biggest feedback that I hear all the time about ADHD is for a family, and nutrition is a big theme with this, gluten, dairy, and that's like, you know, they're like, please, I don't even want to talk about this because how do I change this? How do I make these changes in my child's life? Because it's not just for their child, it's their entire family.
Correct.
So how, do they leave you with the test and then say, good luck?
No.
Or do
First
you...
of all, I have a team. And the team, members of my team and myself, we will make this practical. We will make it effective. We will make it something that everybody can do
so you're going to
in
help
little
the family.
incremental steps. I'm going to be there every step of the way. I'm not prescribing and leaving.
Okay.
I'm not handing off to anyone else. I'm not saying, see me in 3 months. Let me know. Call me if there's a problem with the pill, but I'll see you in 3 months. No, I'm with you every step of the way. No handoffs. And as I said, my team and I will make this practical. Every family can do this, and we'll work with you wherever you are in this process to make sure that it's something that not only you can do, but that you love to do. And who isn't happier for making changes that make yourself and your children thrive, more optimal, healthy, happier?
Yeah. That's what we can get down with, and that's really what
And save money.
and save money, which is that's even better.
Tom, we'll talk about that.
And that's a whole other conversation we're going to have for another time, because I know the cost of ADHD alone. I've read the numbers, I've looked at it between direct and indirect. It can be upwards of $4,000 a year, and you take that
over 10, 12, 14 years.
Yeah,
You're
so
talking
now
about
we're
$50,000 or $60,000, as opposed to
that's college
affordable
fund.
fees. We make sure our foods are affordable. We make sure it's real food, real supplements, and we do this to the point at which we can be corrective. So a child does not need to be managed for the next 10 or 12 years. A child gets healthy and symptoms fall away.
So there is real hope to be able to reverse that label and that diagnosis of ADHD. So if your family, somebody that you love, have been affected by ADHD, I hope that you've enjoyed today's segment here with Dr. Steve Rosman.
It's been a pleasure.
Make sure you go check him out at Rosman Whole Person Healthcare over at the home of yourbrainhealthdoctor.com. Dr. Steve, as a functional medicine specialist, you've brought so much, you've impacted so many lives. Continue to do it. We're so grateful for the information. So you want to find other alternatives to medication. You want to know if you even need to be on it in the first place. Well, Dr. Steve and his team can definitely be there to help you out. And if they've got questions, can they come in and check you out? Are you accessible?
You certainly can. In fact, you can go to the site, and there's an opportunity for you to sign up for a free 20-minute introductory conversation. We begin the conversation, and it costs you nothing.
Fantastic. That's very affordable right there. So, Dr. Steve,
there you go.
Thank you so much. We really appreciated having you here. Until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And on next week's episode, we're going to talk all about the power of getting some good sunshine, some vitamin D. I'm Dr. Melissa. Stay amazing.